Please, Vice.
Hopefully we'll be
Your
here.
Vice Chair?
Hopefully we'll be here, but
Vice Chair Streets?
yeah. Hopefully it's in Washington DC, as far as I know.
You want this?
Oh,
You're sharp, huh?
well, it's about time we get started with street stuff right here. And I'm next in line, so.
Yes, go on, please.
Rock on.
You just go ahead and.
Okay. All right, first thing on the agenda is the legislative request for street signs. We have brought this up many times here. We've talked about it last year. This will be a completion of all the street signs we need to buy, complete our changeover, and also post. The mayor had 35,000 down for that, for the total.
On the capital improvement
Capital
planning
improvement list,
document.
yeah. And I am asking for 30,000, so it's $5,000 less. We'll appropriate that within the capital improvements, $30,000 for street signs and posts. And that will complete us buying all the new signs that's required for us with the letters. It will be the brown signs, and hopefully we'll get those in and get that completed as soon as possible. Questions on that?
Will we be the first city
You got it ordered already.
in the US to complete it?
To comply? I don't think so, probably not the first.
Probably have to replace them before everyone else can buy it.
Probably nobody else will.
Yeah.
Bob-
They'll change it again.
Bob, did that also apply to things like stop signs and speed limit signs and things like that, or were they just street name signs?
Or you mean the money we have appropriated, or?
No, law
They're all signs because of the reflectivity of it. But we were lucky on 79, most of them got replaced, like the overhead, and we really don't have that many more overhead signs.
Okay.
I guess you go down towards, going towards Hebron that way, you have some more, but that took care of a lot of it. Yeah, eventually we'll have to do all those too, but the street signs are one of the first things we had to do with a 6-inch letter for the first one.
Okay.
When we replace stuff, we get all the new reflective stuff when we replace it.
Was it, we had to replace them first because of the height of the letters and the reflection?
Well, yeah, they were non-compliant.
Let's read horizontally.
Tim?
I just said it has to read horizontally instead of vertically.
That's right.
I got tired term in it. We're gonna go to number 3 instead of, we'll go back to 2, but we'll go with number 3. And I talked about this the last time I was here and a couple other times again. Jobs and Henderson did some work for us as far as the street light pole that is on the corner of Parkview Drive and Route 79. And as I explained before, that pole has been hit numerous times. It looks by semi trucks. Is an angle that makes it difficult to turn. The trucks have to belly out, and these are bad truck drivers. They're not your typical truck drivers, but they either hit that pole that's near Chipotle, or they go out so far and wipe out what is that sign they wipe out there? That's the no U-turn sign, I think.
Yeah.
That's been wiped out twice at least since we've had that. We checked on repairing the pole. The manufacturers, they would not, they don't recommend that, and it wouldn't be warranted under that circumstance. So we would have to get a new pole. Jobs at Henderson has recommended moving it 30 feet to the south. And one of the reasons for that is because of all the underground utilities that are there. Where that pole is, it would be a nightmare to try to put a new pole in there, in the same place. So they wanna move it 30 feet, and then that way that also avoids the truck traffic, and then we avoid all the utilities. To do a new pole with a foundation base and, all the wiring installation, it is gonna be around $15,000 to replace that. The mast arm on that is going up and down like crazy, from the wind. There's supposed to be some fins on there when they did some of the work on Route 79. Nobody knows where those fins are anymore. It could be also that the mast is going up and down because the pole's been hit. Maybe it's weakened that pole a little bit. Maybe that's making it cause, we don't know. But, it has to be fixed and it has to be moved. And then that should take care of all the problems we have there. And I have a legislative request to replace that. Appropriate within capital improvements, $15,000 for replacement of street light pole, foundation, and wiring and installation. This is something we've been dealing with for 3 or 4 years, talking about it. Finally, we had Joe's do some work on it because we just didn't know for sure what we wanted to do on that.
You suppose you could maybe get Jeff Moore to build the base for you?
Well, we could have those things point out, and we could flatten some tires.
Jeff Moore. From the Keller Drive there.
While Jeff's on that, I'll go ahead and we'll go back to number 2. And these are all things that we've been debating for a few years on replacing, and this year it looks like we have a little bit of money in capital improvement, so we just have to take care of these things. Dave Pennington was here, on the last time or time before, and we talked about the controllers that we have on 30th Street. The controller at the corner of Andover and 30th, has been damaged. It's been hit by lightning. Some of the ground wires in the controller are melted. The guys are really concerned that if it takes any other kind of hit, it will just stop working totally. And then we would have to have time to be able to get another controller in here and replace that. We also have a controller, the box and some of the insides has been hit at the corner of Custer and Claren and 30th Street. That's another controller that is going to be replaced. To replace the one at 30th and Andover, the controller's around $6,800, and the installation of that would be $3,000. So that would be a total of $10,000 to replace the one at 30th and Andover. And then the one at Custer and Claren, that is $8,000 to replace the cabinet, assembly, and the controller, and also $3,000 to install that. I added another $500 because I hate being that close. If you wanted to do both controllers, then it would be $21,500 to replace both controllers at both intersections. And again, it's $10,000 at one, $11,000 at the other.
What's the timeline when you think these were?
When they've been hit, or
Yeah. Do we have any kind of
2
insurance
or 3
coverage?
years ago,
Do we have
probably.
any kind of insurance coverage for anything
I
like
have
this?
no idea.
How would we find out?
I would have to make an inquiry. I'll have to check on it.
I don't know, I mean, Dave has talked about it have you ever thought about, I guess I haven't thought about it, I don't know.
If the damage comes about from lightning, or if it comes about from a vehicle running into something, I would think we're probably have coverage after $1,000 deductible.
What, When did the lightning incident happen?
I mean, the guy's been complaining about it for 2 or 3 years now. So it's probably been that long.
I'm wondering if that mast arm that you're talking about would be an insurance claim. I don't know.
We put it there.
Yeah.
We're the ones that put it there, assuming that it was engineered with minimum clearances accounted for. I don't know.
Before we start spending money, maybe we should check our insurance coverage and see if we've got
The,
some kind of coverage for some of this stuff.
yeah, we want to be gentle with our insurance. In the last year, we've had significantly more in claims than our premium's been. I want us to turn in legitimate claims, but something that's been wearing out for 3 or 4 years and has been struck by lightning, maybe, and we don't know.
We just know those ground wires were melted inside
Yeah.
the box, but we know that.
I don't know, and how
Might be a weak claim.
I don't. Yeah, and
We've had a lot of claim activity in the last year.
yeah, I don't.
Well, from the duration,
I'd like
that
us to
was,
have some good years of low claims. Is what I'd like to see us have. But
we had quite a bit in 2012 from the duratio.
that and the Shai house that same year had the tornado
Tornado.
that hit it. I mean,
We've had something almost every year.
seems like yeah.
Well, we could still process the legislative request, and then we have 2 weeks before we'd even have the first vote on it. Then
Yeah.
we have another 2 weeks after that, so within the 4-week period, we should be able to know.
Actually, more because next council meeting's not until April 7th.
Okay.
Let's at least do some due diligence on this and see if it's
You
makes some sense for us to consider a small
You move your
claim.
elbow, they can't go further.
City this size, we're gonna have claims, but what are we paying premiums?
I don't know. I gave you guys a chart on that recently.
That's a fun report.
Do we have the money to do that if we don't? If we get any insurance claim, do you wanna do it?
Well,
I mean, do you
this
wanna
would
do it?
be out of capital improvements, which was not something that we had accounted for in the planning document. My inclination is, if you had to triage the two, the Andover 30th Street, Clarendon Custer intersection of 30th Street, although in bad shape, we don't necessarily need to get done immediately. Maybe next year we could do that one. Remember though, also, we have talked previously about the idea of the Custer-Clarendon traffic signal, allowing for dedicated left-hand turns off of 30th Street onto those streets. At the time that we changed out the box, that would be the time that we would want to look to make those things work. So,
You wanna
you know,
just
we've
do the
got
one
less
right now?
than, we planned for 35 for the street signs. Looks like it's gonna come in at 30. It's about 10 grand or so to replace the one on Andover. My feeling is, let's change out the one on Andover, and maybe we plan for the Custer or Clarendon one next year.
So you're after.
There you go.
That work for you, Bob?
Yeah. The mayor talking about those lights, we talked about that about a year ago or maybe longer. And on Custer, there is a left-hand turn lane, but we don't have any lights for a left-hand turn
Pretty
for
proud of
that.
that.
And we have
Yeah.
talked about
So-
Andover,
so level
left-hand
one.
turn lane, the same thing, there's
What are
no light
insurance
there. And then we
premiums
talked
always
about
do?
Park National Bank, which again, there's a left-hand turn lane there on the northbound. But again, no light there, so those are things, but with these controllers, we'll be able to make that adjustment if we ever want to.
So you just want to do the legislative request for the.
Yeah, we'll do the legislative request, $10,000 replacement of a controller and installation at Andover and 30th Street.
Wait,
We had somebody in a while back that talked about traffic lights and that kind of stuff, the ones that didn't have the loops in the ground. Is there any benefit to looking at those now that you're gonna be changing all this stuff or not?
You still need the controller.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
realize that,
Yeah.
but would it be a different type of controller? Or I didn't know if there's a benefit to.
No,
No, it's
it
just,
shouldn't.
same
It's all the
thing,
same thing, all the
Yeah.
same stuff.
same thing. Eddie.
Good question.
What you're talking about, Brian, is the piece that would tell the controller what the traffic situation is, but the controller would still be the controller.
yeah.
And remember what we were gonna do is this was probably a couple years ago, I guess, maybe a year and a half ago. That gentleman, I think you had kind of helped arrange for that, Tim.
Yeah.
That gentleman had said that Lancaster was going to be installing quite a few of those. We talked about maybe making a road trip
Right.
down there to see, talk to the officials. Once they got them in place and had them working and stuff, talk to the officials down there, see what they thought of that and whether or not it would be, something for us to look at. So probably, now that it's getting a little bit warmer and more inclined to be outside looking at stuff, that might be something that we ought to look to try to do this year. And I can call down to Lancaster and try to schedule for that. I apologize, I'm dealing with a cold, so my voice can't talk very much.
I think that'd be good, because they impressed me with that. Yeah, I had many here.
Well, I liked how it was just one piece. And although the cameras on the arms or on the wires or whatever are okay, those are more components then. The more components you have, the more chance you are of having something go bad. This was just one piece. And then not having the loops in the ground, you don't have to deal with that when you have repaving projects and things like that. That's something that's totally out of the equation, which is nice to have. So there were some benefits to that. I don't remember how much they cost. I remember that they were maybe a little pricier than loops in the short term.
Around
Yeah,
9,000, I think.
Cameras are more than loops, and that was more than a camera, but because it was taking the place of the more movements you have, the better it gets for value because you're getting all those loops. If you just have an intersection where you just this traffic goes and this traffic goes, it wouldn't pay for itself to have that.
Yeah.
But the more left turn movements you have, right? More different movements you have, then the better it is because that's fewer loops you have to.
Yeah.
Every loop you save on that or every camera location.
Did Newark ever look at those? Did their street department ever look at those or consider those or
Yeah,
whatever?
BJ's looked at it. That's how I got the guy originally, is BJ Varner, who's the traffic control guy
Oh,
from
okay.
Newark. He had talked to the guy and stuff and had thought about it at a couple intersections and decided, most Newark has the single cameras or everything, so they just kind of, and they are more expensive, unless you have like a lot of movements, but he thought about but hasn't done it yet, so.
We expect the cost on those because they take pictures of any accidents and that's in the safety area.
But yeah, it's a little different what they can do and what they're not doing. So.
Any more comments? Hey, Bob.
Okay. Number 4, the salt supply. Now we have, I think Dave said last time we were around 450 ton that we have right now. So hopefully no more snow. We've already have our limit from what we could purchase from the state, so we won't be going over that. Looks like.
Did you get the email that I forwarded to you and Dave? It looks like the state's wanting us to move up our time frame on when we request salt.
Yeah,
For-
I got something in my box today about the state wants to do that. I didn't look at it very closely. I saw that.
Maybe that was what it was. Maybe I put that in your box.
Usually, this ends like May 31st, and the new one starts June 1st.
And there were two separate dates I remember too.
Hey, Bob, did you say we have 450 tons now and have
Yes.
350 ordered?
No, we already
We got it all.
350 now because it's around 450.
Total.
We've used some of that since it's come in, but we have 450 now.
Okay.
The 2 days you saw might be the beginning and the ending of this start.
Okay. And there was something else that caught my eye there too. If memory serves, right now, you tell them how much you want. You have to order 80%, and you can order up to 120, right?
That's what I told you.
Something tells me, if I'm remembering what I read correctly, that is going to change, and it's going to go to 90 and 110.
Okay.
Check that and see if I'm right.
I mean, it's a crapshoot anyway, what you ordered, you know.
Well, problem though is if they go to 90 and 110, they're decreasing
Right.
your wiggle room
Yeah.
off that initial target that you give them. Both ways, you got to buy closer to that, and you can't buy as much over that and still get that same
The
price.
problem is if you have a bad winter, okay, we start ordering more. And then we have some good winters and we order less. And
Yeah.
it's just
Well, and for
what you do and
for the mines, I'm sure coming into this season, they had a huge backlog of supply, and which was one of the reasons why the prices were good this year.
Right.
When they've totally blown through that supply, they're down to no reserves now probably.
we paid 47.
So now the price is going to go up for
Right, we paid
next season.
$47.74, I think, this year per ton. So I don't know what it'll be next year.
Yeah.
Do we still have a problem with storage?
The only time we've ever had some problem is on a winter that it's a really good winter and we don't use as much, and we have required to at least get that 80%.
Yeah.
We had a problem that time. We had to store it outside for a while, and then we eventually got it in.
Didn't we have an extra 50 tons that we didn't?
I
pick
think
up?
Dave went ahead and put that order in. I think he did.
So we're gonna get that
Yeah. Yep.
at the old price.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we've ordered everything we can at the
So
old
that's part of the
price.
450.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark, when you said they're wanting you to move the date up, I can interpret that two different ways. You can move it forward, move it up to be closer to move forward. So
Yes,
you order
earlier in the year.
Earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's what I wasn't sure of.
Any more questions, comments? Okay, Bob.
Then I guess I haven't looked at the agenda tonight, but is it on there to amend the two legislative requests
Yeah.
we passed the last time?
Yeah.
Okay, that's been done. Okay. And that was just on when we were changing.
Those are under the unfinished business on the
Okay.
council agenda.
It's ordinance 10, 2014.
Yeah, that's on the truck. And then the other one is with the bridge that we got the stuff from underneath the bridge. Linda came in, just wanted to change that from parks to streets, I think. The streets. You have that one too, and then that should be on there too.
One ordinance.
Should be on there.
Put a corrected one in the boxes for us.
Well, that, and then the next one.
Unless there's a different.
So what's really happening?
I mean, I was just verbally told that, Keith, didn't you understand it that way, that Linda wanted to change that from parks and put it into the street fund?
I'm sorry, who?
Linda?
Under
Richards?
On an ordinance we already did?
Yes.
What was it? What was the ordinance before? Do you know what number it was?
2014.
It's on.
Before 10 or after 10? I don't know.
It would have to be 10, right?
No, 10 is the,
10's
truck.
what we did.
10's the truck.
Okay.
Okay, let me look at the minutes from the last. It hadn't been the last time, so let me get the minutes here.
No, that's what I did.
I think it's a very minor change.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It was for 17,000, I think.
That's not on the agenda for tonight.
No, I'm looking at the
Ordinance
minutes.
11.
That had been something we already did. If we have to amend
I
something, we
mean,
have to do
someone
it a little
told
last
me
minute.
that, someone told me we had to change it. I
What were
thought
we doing? What
somebody
was he doing? I mean, what was?
Changing it from street to parks.
But what? Changing what from street to park? Changing what? Buying something, selling something, moving money around?
It was paying
For
to remove that, all that log jam we had.
all the log jam one, that
And
was
and
with,
the money was gonna
That's
go to
number
parks,
11.
and Linda wanted to go in the streets.
I think that they kind of decided it didn't make any difference.
Is that, okay, alright. Well, I hadn't heard that.
You want me to check with Lynn?
well, wait a minute.
She's back there.
I don't,
Tim, you want me to go
I
check
didn't
with
see any
Lynn?
big deal, I didn't see any big deal about it either.
So we're not spending more money, we're just doing an internal accounting transfer.
Correct.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
I need to,
Seems like, once you do that.
Well, it's probably important that you understand what you're reconsidering. Yeah, it's not
Oh, I
spending
know.
any new money.
I mean, do we, something has to be, I don't have the right
Come on, somebody's not.
I don't have the right
link.
set of minutes.
Do something internally.
I pulled the wrong ones out of the last meeting's minutes. I pulled the wrong one out of my box over there. Yeah.
Capital, capital perspective.
Yes.
Park services law, okay, that one.
Yep, North, of course.
I don't know for sure. if I had to-
Parks, she just wanted to streets.
Capital that on.
I think
You wanna see 11?
we did talk about that, and all general fund anyway, and there was,
So no, we can,
the one to reconsider is the one that's on the agenda.
okay, the other one we don't need to mess with, okay. Thanks.
Alright, just wanna
thanks.
make sure.
And this one isn't spending more money, we're just moving it.
Yes,
Yeah, we're not
paying out a
spending
different
more
piece of
money.
parts.
You're actually spending less money, I think, aren't you? In the reconsideration?
I don't think that Alan changed it. Eventually,
Where
you'll
it
get
come
some
from?
of that money back when you trade in those vehicles.
Cause it was already paid when we voted on it.
It got 90,369 lined through and put in 84,684.
I threw the old one away.
Well,
There's,
it was 145,000, and now it's 139, 315, so it is a little different.
In our favor,
Yeah,
for a change.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's all.
everybody's happy.
All right, that's enough to pay for
the
your
old,
controller.
yeah.
That was the other one. That was the other one.
That's a new one.
That's the new one.
Here's the old one.
That's right.
So that all you had in those requests?
Oh, thanks.
Okay,
Okay, Bob.
alright, other items, again, we are out, patching potholes, it was a horrible winter. I've been telling Dave,
Do we have some potholes?
just, we're naming them now. Grand Canyon,
There you go.
anyway, we're trying to get to those as much as we can. We have some dirt patching to do in some areas, and then we have some road repairs, so we'll be busy doing all that this summer, so do all the things.
The other day I was going to work, this lady stopped me, she said, you need to tell them at the hole right there at that bridge on Hooverwick. I said, they're gonna fix it today. That afternoon, she come by, thanks for getting that done.
Way to go, Cletus! Yes! Cletus Henry getting things done.
Man of
That's all I
action.
have in
A
street.
man of action.
I have a question. I
Yeah,
guess I thought too slow. But these controllers that we're looking at, the one that down at Custer and Clarin is $11,000, and we're concerned that it's going to quit working.
It's just been hit a few times, and just Dave has told me that if he thinks that there's another hit to it, that there's things in there that are, what was he talking about today? The welding on the back of it, and
Well,
The
where I'm
wires
with-
going
where I'm
into it
going with
themselves are
this
supporting a
is-
lot of the weight of it.
where our priorities are. You know, we're not gonna, we're thinking hard and heavy on a replacing something to keep the traffic flowing, but we're spending $30,000 on street signs?
Well, those are required. I mean, you cannot do
I
it.
understand they're required, I understand that. But we've done a daggone good job of being up to it. But if I have a choice between a street sign and something that's gonna get you through a stop sign and save a life, I might reconsider and let the government come after me.
Okay, you can do that.
Well, yeah, we talked about
We can
this
do
today
that
too.
anyway.
If council is inclined to want both controllers replaced, then what I would recommend, this 30,000, we changed out about a third of the city's street signs last year. This $30,000 would purchase the materials that will change out the other 2/3, the rest of the city. Now, you know, the cost of those, I'm assuming, is not going to decrease over time. They'll only increase. But if I don't want to do both controllers and all the street signs this year, so, you know, we could do another third of the city's street signs this year and another controller. Or we can do, again, the controller at Custer Claren is not as bad as the controller at Andover. So we could either purchase all the materials for the street signs this year, whether or not we get them all changed out this year or not, at least we have the materials purchased. And then we could handle the Custer controller next year, or we could purchase the street signs that'll just handle another third of the city this year and buy another controller, and then buy the stuff for the street signs for the final third of the city next year. We could do that. Remember, these controllers we did not account for in the planning document, and I'm trying to, you know, spend. Although that planning document isn't, you know, written in stone, and things do happen and come up and you got to deal with them. I did that not just as an exercise. I did that for the purpose of trying to adhere to it. So I don't want to, you know, totally disregard what we had planned for and just spend money freely that we didn't talk about planning for.
Defense, the controllers are freely spending either. I mean, that goes out, we've got a major problem.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes with capital improvements, I mean, sometimes you have large, like with the park this year, I have, we're gonna seal parking lots. That's what we're gonna do this year. We're going to do the shop roof, 50,000. Those are estimates, you know, sometimes things come in. I mean, usually department heads usually estimate high, so you don't have to come back and ask for more money. So some of these items could come in, you know, less. You just, I mean, we could kind of wait on the controller, and it's like if the capital improvements, you know, we spent less than what we thought we were going to, then we could go ahead and get the other controller this year if we wanted to look, kind of see how it's going. And that way we get all the signs, but the signs could go up in a year or two again. Dealing with the color brown is difficult for us because of matching the colors for the signs. You know, we're going with a different company this year, so we have to be exact with this color of brown that we're getting to make sure it matches everything else we have. To order now and then reorder again, it makes it a little bit difficult. If we have the same company, that's fine, but we're going with a different company this year because of the turnaround just took forever last year. We're going with a different company. But you could just go ahead and do the signs and the controller and then see if things come in a little bit less, and then there's a possibility we could still do that this year.
Do the second controller.
Yeah, do the second controller then.
When do you the things on the pool, the expenditures on the pool, do we have good numbers on those yet or no?
Well, we had the estimates on the seal all the parking lots and in the parks, and then parking lot sealed and striped in the pool, those were given to us last year, so those are pretty close numbers.
There were some other things on the pool too, right?
They repaired the leak. That's a crapshoot. We'll say, hey, we got 30 grand. It may not be, they might find something right away. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then like the shop roof, we got 50,000 on that. It could come in less, I don't know. And I suppose if let's just say that we have a decent year where we have a lot of breakdowns, the possibility that I might have money in my budget to be able to buy that other controller at the end of the year when we see how things go. That could be a possibility too. So we won't have to appropriate any new money.
Okay.
That's a possibility.
Bob, do we have a backup controller to use in the city if any of our intersections would go down?
I don't think so, or these guys would, they wouldn't be telling me that we need this.
Okay.
Desperately, so.
I didn't know if we did or not. I know North, they have like backup ones, so if one goes down, they can trade out, even if it doesn't do everything, at least can get the thing back on operation pretty quick,
I
rather than
haven't
have to
heard,
wait
I
for
haven't
them.
heard that from
Okay.
Any more?
So maybe just continue what we're gonna do, and then we might still be able to get that under control this year. Does that sound right?
Keep it on our radar
Yep,
now.
yep, okay.
I just had a question, or I noticed something today, and maybe nobody's seen it yet or not, but on the median, there's a crushed spot on our median. I saw it this morning on my way
You mean
down.
the curve or what?
It's one of the
Right there at
curves.
the intersection, 22nd Street, isn't it?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's on like the curve part of it, and it looks like it's been mashed.
It looks like, that part, you turn left to go into
Yeah,
Southgate.
uh-huh.
Southgate.
That whole corner just crushed. to
Somebody's
pieces.
hit
seen
that
that.
really hard. Maybe it was an accident or something, but it's crushed right there on the
It
corner.
looks like a plow probably hit it.
That's possible too, yeah.
I don't
But
know.
You
That's what
might look at that.
It takes something that
I
big.
would be real hesitant to say it was a plow, or else I think we would have heard
Yeah.
that.
But it looks like it's just happened, and I just saw it this morning, so.
I
saw it
haven't,
last
I
week,
mean,
I forgot.
I've
And
been
it's
that
on-
way, and I've never noticed anything, but
It's, as
sometimes
you're
you go
going.
by.
It's where you turn in to try to turn into that
I
angle?
think as
Yeah.
you're turning
Into the middle
in
of
there,
Southgate
but
there?
it's this
Yeah.
piece, it's over here, like on this route.
Yeah, I'll
But
take a
it's-
look
I'll
at it.
try to
It's
go
at
that way
that
heading
area.
home tonight and take a, so I'm driving northbound.
It's right on your
And
left.
there's, so across from the Valvoline, I can get into a turn lane where I can turn into Southgate. Can you
Right.
tell me where it's at?
Okay, you're sitting here in the turn lane, it's on this corner, you're still on the south lane there.
Okay.
Okay, so it's on that side,
Okay, so it's on the other side. I would be turning in front of it.
right.
I would
and
not
it's
have
over
gotten
here.
to it yet.
Oh, like
over
someone
here.
went through and then ran into it that way, something?
Yeah, it looks like somebody's
It's a
come
real
out of,
it's a real slender one. That's where, that angled cover in Southgate, it's that slender part there.
yeah,
Large?
you've moved over, it's over here. You've moved over to
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah.
Might have been.
Yeah.
Road trip.
It's evidently just happened, so, within the, last 24 hours or so.
Well, I didn't say it was a truck, Mark.
But if
It
it was-
looks like it's something like that, it was low, because it's only about that much left on the
Really?
surface.
Yeah,
The
Okay.
rest of it's gone.
yeah.
Bob, if it's a result of an accident, let's hope the police department's diligent.
Say something.
It's
No,
I
bad.
have not noticed it, and nobody said it. Has
Well,
said
I
it
kinda
to
look
me
at the
either.
banner poles and stuff as I get through there, and I noticed it this morning, so,
Well, we will check that out.
anyway.
Got any things under other, Bob?
That's it.
Anybody got any more questions, Bob? We're over.
All right, we will call Parks, Rec, and Davis Shea to order at 6:11. First item on the agenda is preseason sale and pool membership. Bob?
Alright, probably go through this pretty quick, it's just information mostly. The pre-sale will be going on until April 30th for full memberships. Remember the pre-sale, we took another $10 off the pre-sale so people can buy pre-sale memberships for $200 up to April 30th. Jan has been doing some advertising for us, and they are going to, I don't know if they are up yet. Are the signs up yet? I haven't noticed. And she also sent something in the water bill. That's probably just went out this time. And I think something's going out the next time. So the
Yeah.
advertising has started for that, and she also is doing postcards the way we have done it before. So
And we'll tweet it and Facebook it on using the city's Twitter and
That's for
Facebook.
family.
yes,
How much is like an individual?
individual 10 through age 59 is 95, and 9 and under is 60, and senior citizen is 60.
Right now, right into it, 95.
Okay, so that is going on till April 30th, then May 1st, then we go into our regular season passes, which will be $240 for a family resident and $260 non-resident for a family.
I saw you had a thing in there, you were still hiring for the city of jobs.
Yep. Till the end of, usually we accept to the end of March, but if we don't have enough, or sometimes people, the college kids can't get their stuff in, we'll take them a little bit past that. And that was number 2.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have an agenda.
You're leading me, I need lead that
All
way.
back there. Streets.
No, I didn't. Like a lot.
There you go.
And anyway, after we get all those applications in, we will be reviewing all those applications. We are again trying to hire less people. It's always difficult to do that because kids get involved in so many activities that they want time off and vacations and camp volleyball and football and all the things they do. So that's one of the reasons why we usually don't have to scrape the bottom of the barrel for applications because we work with the kids, but we're trying to give them more hours and hire a few more or less people. So that's what we're trying this year. I met with Rhonda and Ann a couple weeks ago and kind of reviewed what we want to do. So also the water bill will be the swim lessons. That's a big item that everybody is interested in. So that will be in the water bill along with the rates of the pool. The water bills are out. I mean, they're out now, right? They should be in people's boxes.
Marches are, yeah, they go out at the end of each month.
So the big thing is people want to know what swim lessons are, so they can kind of plan their vacations around there. So that information will be coming out. Speaking of, well, number 3, I'm getting bids for landscaping on Route 79. John and I have talked about things. Really, only a couple landscapers that have been interested at all. Last year, I think we only had one that even bid on it last year. They must not like working in the middle of 79. This year, they have to work around a broken curb, it sounds like. So add that to thanks. So we're getting bids on that right now, and I should be able to cover that. I think last year was around $3,300. I should be able to cover that in my budget, so we shouldn't have to ask for additional money on that.
I want to know too, Bob. The trees were warranted. I believe the trees were replaced.
I think John said they have been replaced.
The plants were warranted. I don't know whether or not they were replaced. But I really think there's something with the soil on the 2 northern islands, because that's the southernmost island of the 3. The trees, for the most part, did well. The plants did very well. There's not a huge climate change between that and the other 2. All right. We use the same salt. We use this. I mean, I don't know what else it could be but the soil. And if we got some bad soil put in on those 2, we need to try to identify that and figure out how we can deal with it, because the plantings in those two were not good compared to that southern one. Not good at all.
What I have noticed in islands through the years is that they put the curb around there, they dig out the center, but a lot of times they leave concrete in the island sometimes. At the pool as an example, we have some places where the grass will grow in May, and then it gets hot like in July, and then we see that we have about that much topsoil on it because they put concrete in there and then threw topsoil on top of it, so it doesn't go down very deep. That could be one of the problems. That maybe they dug into the tree, but at the bottom of that there's concrete, or around the side there could be some concrete. They just seem like they never clean it out as well as they should before they put the dirt in. I've noticed that many times.
I had that problem in my yard last year before, and the nursery over there on the other side of Newark, past halfway out there, what is that? Wilson. And they come back and did a test on mine, and that was the same thing Bob said. It was the soil that I had put over there was not letting the water go down, and it drowned the plants.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very.
We'll go through another year and just see what happens. I guess could be the water. We don't. I mean, I kind of wanted sprinklers in there, but we didn't do that. So
see, that's what I'm saying. All other conditions are the same. All other conditions are the same between the southern island and the two to the north of it. The only variable that I can think of is the soil. None of the trees in the two northern ones lasted. The plantings did poorly as well. You look at the evergreens that are in there, quite a few of them are brown, and they turn brown pretty quick. So the only variable that I can think of is type of soil or depth. Did they clear? I don't know. And you'd have to take a spud bar and drive it down as far as you can to see if that's an issue.
Right.
For some reason, I remember a couple drivers, and I'll use that term probably loosely in this case, drivers falling into the holes with their cars. Apparently a cone every 2 inches along the stretch there was not enough for them to see that they shouldn't go there. And those were pretty deep holes. So, maybe it wasn't cleared out enough, but I'm not sure, because I remember seeing those holes being pretty deep in those islands.
Well, it sounds like John has really struggled to get ODOT to do anything to replace anything. That seemed like for a while.
Well,
so I don't know if that's even an option.
There was the timing with the trees as far as when it's best to, replant those and things. But my understanding is that the trees have been replaced. I don't know about the other vegetation.
I don't know what he's found out about that. And I doubt if they're going to be under warranty anymore, so we'll have to start replacing those ourselves.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. If the soil quality's bad, that's not going to be good for us. We're going to have to deal with that.
Have to dig everything out and plant everything.
Or know that we have to somehow fertilize it or do something different than we do on that southern island, where things seem to have taken really well.
I guess we'll give it another year and see what happens, and we'll have to assess what we're going to do from there on that. And I'll have these guys look at it that are doing this.
Okay.
Okay. So we should be getting those bids in shortly. Number 4, softball leagues will be forming. Rob Smith, he handles that for us. Softball's starting to pick up. My day was big, and then it kind of backed off a little bit, and it seems like it's picking up again. So, and in fact, at our place, I think we might be the only place that has a field that there are leagues anymore. I think Levin is all north now.
Yeah.
And fiberglass is gone. I think they don't play there anymore, so I think our place is the one left. So it's still going good for us. Yeah, well, I think this year year. I think we did.
Does the volleyball court get scheduled a lot? I noticed a lot of people playing. I didn't know whether
Well,
it's
there's
leagues
leagues,
or.
there's leagues there.
Yeah, there's sand volleyball leagues that go on there.
So
That's why it's
it's,
filled up, yep.
They
All
pay
summer long.
their fees, that covers the officials.
Yep.
Right, that,
Everything. When you go in that park certain days, there's volleyball going on and there's softball going on, and sometimes church rents our shelter house and just regular people in the park, that park is packed during the summer. I mean, it really is. It gets a lot of use. You get the spring where they're just, people are begging for places to practice for baseball. You know, we built that other field by the high school. T-ball, they seem to think they need a field. Just go out in the grass somewhere and you can do
T-ball.
that.
if they know to run to first base instead of third,
Yeah.
they're doing really well.
But anyway, the park is.
it gets to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that con shelter house is, gosh, it seems like it's always, being rented out. And what do we charge, Keith? Is that 35, 45 for con?
Yeah,
Is what, 35?
yes.
And
On
then,
Friday, Saturday,
Sunday.
Sunday, and then 25. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm wondering if we ought to build another one. You got,
Or you can bump up the rate too.
Well, there's a lot of demand for it.
Yep.
I mean,
It's got electric, has water out there. You
Yeah.
know, it's
and then the
it's a great
Hoback
place.
shelter house, the enclosed one, we rent that for $100 a pop, and it's
And that's
the
been-
weekends.
That price has been that for a long time.
The weekends, it's they have all kinds of that people rent it out for all kinds of stuff. Mostly on the weekends.
In that shelter house, we that's why it's called Con Shelter. They gave us that money, $65,000, and we only spend the interest, and we use the interest off that money to build that shelter house. And the restrooms there and some other things. So.
Yeah. You're talking about a concrete pad with a roof over it and some picnic tables, and it's rented out. It's rented out a lot, and then it's also used on times, the days where it's not rented out. There's still people that use it.
and the rental goes back into the con fund when the con shelter is rented. So that,
It helps us.
it makes it perpetuate. But honestly, you had another shelter out there looked just like the one you have. I don't know what it would cost to build that shelter, but
Well, that's one of the first things I did when I came to department head was we built that shelter house.
was it?
So, yeah, one of the first. So that's been 15 to.
You did a good job with that, Bob. What happened on everything else?
Hey, one good idea every 20 years. That's all I'm good for.
Don't push it. Becky was actually gonna chat with you about your plans for, some of the money to try to determine how long to invest it.
Oh,
Part of the con money is in a money market account, which is, what those are doing.
yeah.
Now, at this time, longer term money, 4 or 5 years, is
I mean, that's just
7,
how-
8 times what,
Yeah.
it's not much interest.
You
You're
lose
probably
the
looking at it-
liquidity, but you get a little bit better interest. Is that right,
Yeah.
Keith?
Yeah.
Is that the?
I'd have to see
Well,
what
it-
we have in there right now. I don't know what we have. I think she just sent the stuff out today or yesterday. I think I saw an email.
It's today.
So I'd have to look and see what the original. I thought it was maybe it's 56,000 was the original.
Sounds about right.
I think 56,000.
And it was an oddball amount,
Yeah, that might be up to 80 or 90 right now. I don't know what it is. I'll have to look and see.
but the fund report's gonna tell you how much is in the fund. It's not gonna tell you
Right.
where it's invested.
Right.
So I know Becky was gonna chat with you
Okay.
about that
All right.
and try to determine when you may wanna spend some money.
How thick is that concrete pad under that shelter house?
That's probably about 4 or 5, maybe even up to 6 inches.
Okay.
Pretty thick.
Concrete. Concrete would be expensive. I assume it's reinforced.
Well, maybe we'll look at another one. Number 5, the leak detection at the pool. If I touched on that, we will look at the activity pool. The activity pool is a pool with a bucket, and that's where we have been losing some water. We did the leak detection, helped us with the baby pool, and we've solved that problem. We don't lose any water there anymore. But the activity pool, we've been losing some water, and we're trying to determine. We've had some of it tested before, so we won't have to have it all tested. But we're still losing some water in there, so we're going to try to figure that out. Hopefully, we can. It's not guaranteed that you will, but I mean, if you were back there when they were building that pool, there was just stuff running everywhere back there. It could be anywhere. There's some turns and crazy stuff, so hopefully we can find something on that to quit losing water. That'll start for real soon. Craig, in fact, has called him, and I haven't talked to him today, but maybe they've already come out and started to look, but I know he's made the call to him, so that's going to happen pretty quickly. And again, that is under the capital improvements. The skylight at the
Hey,
pool.
Bob, refresh my memory. The big pool. We don't drain that.
No, that's designed to keep water in.
Okay. How thick did that ice get? And should we have opened a little hockey rink there this year?
Well, those are limestone caps. So ice skates and limestone probably would not mix.
Well, yeah, you'd have to. We'd have had to put some.
You'd have to
padding
cover
stuff
all those
down,
limestone caps because you could mark those up pretty bad.
That would have been fun.
And then when
I'm sure it would probably be
when
green
you fall-
ice or whatever because of with the condition of the water or
and
whatever.
when you
But
fall and slide into one of it, that's probably fun too. So,
Ouch.
Buckeye Lake was frozen pretty much all year.
yeah,
Did you go out there and ice skate?
no, huh?
Was that fun?
Yeah,
I used to do that.
you used to skate in the canals, didn't you?
That's how I got to school. The skylight, the pool it's that I think we've already paid for that. They had to wait for some parts to come in. That'll be completed before the start of the year. So we're working on that. And that's all I have in parks.
Anybody have any questions or anything additional for Parks Director David Shai?
I'll just say something real quick, since I did this thing.
Oh, God.
Where's my other one? Oh, here. A few years ago, actually back in 2007, I did this map for the bike pass, and it's on our city's website. If you click on bike pass or whatever, Craig White texted me, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, or wanted to know about doing a new one since we've added more trails. So it's a smaller version, but it gets all the way. This is out to the Port Authority, and
Yeah.
this is all the way up to Hopewell Drive at where the railroad tracks is.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is, the way I did the old one is we just put numbers along different places, and if you were at 1 and wanted to go to, let's say, to 5, you can look at this chart and tell you how far it was between 1 and 5 in feet and miles. But we're going to do a new one and add more locations, so a lot more spots. But rather than do the feet and the miles, I'm just going to do it in miles. Everyone can,
Yeah.
So we can fit them on there. So in this area here, the blank area, I can fit the stuff. But so I'm going to try in my spare time in the next couple weeks to get that done and then get it out on the website and stuff. But, so that if you're anywhere, if you're at the high school and want to go all the way out to the Port Authority, by which way you go through which numbers, it would be so long. If you went out like the railroad track and then went that way, how far that would be. So you just. And you might have to add some of them up. I don't think I can do all the different combinations,
Yeah.
The matrix and stuff,
Yeah.
but like I did the one before.
Well, that's kind of the way when you're looking at a road map, you kind of have to do that.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm going to go from 1 to 5 and then 5 to 13, let's say,
Uh-huh.
and then look at those and just add the two segments up and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's what it's going to do and everything. So if anyone's interested in making a big loop or whatever.
I couldn't quite see for it. Does that have the little spur on the very southern part of town, the one that goes down to Hebron?
I didn't. I just no. I cut it off because the way the scale. I didn't go all the way to Hebron. No. What I'm going to do is
No, I mean just where the city limit is, though.
Yeah.
Is that, okay.
Well, yeah. I'll hit the
that
city
area.
limit. What I'll probably do is maybe put a dot at the city limits and then say another one that will be like at 40
Okay.
and how far it would be if you went all the way to 40, and it would just be like so many extra miles and stuff, but not show it. You know what I mean? Because if I had to show that to scale, it was make everything so small you couldn't even,
Yeah.
you know, or I'd have to turn the paper the other way. I could do that. I mean, I could make it full scale if you want. You know, just kill a lot of trees with my
Yeah.
paper. But anyways, I just thought I'd bring it up because Craig White asked me, and I thought, you know, he's kind of behind it a little bit, so I thought,
I think it's
You know,
interesting that people like knowing that. One of the calls I always get in the park is how long our trail is in the park, how long the paved trail is. We get those calls all the time,
Yeah.
so,
At Galler?
yeah.
They're too, is it too long?
If you walk the paved part 3 times, that's a mile. It's a third of a mile. If you're around there walking. Does anybody still walk?
Seems farther than that.
1/3 of a mile.
My circle's a half mile, and it
All right,
seems
anything
longer
else?
than that.
Is that right?
Deb, do you know if, did you guys get your questions answered about the Shai House report yet? Or
No, we
is
haven't even formed our questions for her yet. Jeff and I have been trying to schedule a meeting to sit down with her and to take questions at that time, and we haven't been able to confirm a time yet, so.
Just sit down, it's like, it's a challenge.
you know,
Down for
Really
the
on
challenge?
a Friday or
Where
something?
you
Try to
put
pin her
numbers
down.
in.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
She's
She's
got
trying to
some
schedule
ideas
some
anyway.
personal things, she said, and so I reached out to her again, I'm waiting to hear back.
Okay.
I'll do a bunch.
I told her we're available this Friday, and then Fridays in April, because Neona's was available on the 28th, so. Okay, anything else? If nothing, we will adjourn at 6:33.
Take it easy.
You can call Joe.
Anyone want a
Tell him it was
basketball thing?
approved, that's all we need.
Oh, okay. Okay, no
Pete,
problem.
you want to do a basketball?
I think so.
33.
I think that's the number. I think it's
Because
a,
these
Nick,
are-
Yeah,
is
you wanna do
33?
I don't, that doesn't make
These are
any
not-
sense to me.
Jeff?
Correct.
$5?
Is that Harry Ballinger's?
Yeah.
I already do.
Oh, you did online, you did online?
Okay.
Nick?
Okay.
You
Buzzer
basketball?
beater.
$5?
Actually, he's gonna be home.
You want to just donate $5 to me?
And he even, he calls me,
Yeah.
You're already in lane,
Yeah.
so it's on this
somebody else
side.
is
Yeah.
going to let me know,
But it,
he'd left
I
his
don't
phone
have
in
a
the
good
truck,
picture.
so
That's the
he said
bad
if there's
one.
any emergencies, call me on this phone.
I'm pretty sure it's that one.
We doing
But
caucus?
it is, it's just smashed.
Finance.
Finance. Everybody's
How,
ready.
how,
Anybody need a break, or we just roll right through
I
this?
roll right
Sure,
through it.
roll with it.
Ow.
We got an
how
executive
far,
session
how far
right here
into
too,
the island does
so.
the
Little bit of
smashing
the red
go?
brick.
Want 5 minutes now, or?
No,
Just
go.
a little
Go
bit, I
finance.
mean,
We're all
it's
right
gonna
here.
take something to fix it,
Yeah.
but it's not completely down the drain.
Okay, let's pass these around.
I'm gonna get through executive session before it's done.
Yeah.
Also got some flyers for the Armed Forces Parade too. Dan Wilkins put together, I managed to get some of these printed off.
Oh, wow, yeah, she did get those printed up, didn't she?
Nice.
Yes.
Kent already took off, didn't he? Did you get one of these?
No, we just passed them on.
Of course, it's getting
Right there next to you, please. No, you got some right there next to you. You didn't get
Oh.
Okay, has everybody got a finance committee agenda that wants one?
Yep.
Shove them down that way. Extras? All right, looks like we have 5 legislative requests. 2 that are on here, plus 3 more. Appropriate $2,000 promotional items for the Beat the Heath, that came out of safety. From the outgoing Chief Shepherd.
That's that DUI fund or whatever it's called.
OMI,
There you go, yeah.
drunk driving fund, no
Yeah.
taxpayer dollars. Anything else? Comments? Coming out of your committee there, Brian?
I know. All I know is I wasn't here, but I know it came out of my committee.
Okay.
Everybody's okay with it, I think.
Committee okay?
Yep.
Second item, donate Atlas trailer to Beat the Heat. Comments, concerns?
Question.
Sure. Sure.
that, since you guys are here, the chief's definitely leaving the advertising and all that on the trailer for Heath.
Yeah.
It's all staying.
Yeah.
Only question.
And he's going to be on a reserve officer status with the department, and said he's definitely interested in continuing to do things like the Star Spangled Celebration and those type of things in the city. So that Beat the Heat program will still have a presence in the city.
Is a reserve officer and an auxiliary the same?
I think it's about the same. I think.
Does that mean that he'll have to be able to maintain that status, actually come in? Don't they have to put in
I think they
like
have
8 hours a month?
So, I think they have to do a minimum of time. I think they still have to qualify, firearm wise and things like that. I believe that's the case.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, third item, these all came out of Bob's Street Committee this evening, appropriate within capital improvements $30,000 for street signs and posts. Any other comments on those? Next one, appropriate within capital improvements $15,000 for replacement of street light pole foundation and wiring and installation. Comments? I just want to make sure we're at least doing an insurance analysis. That's my only caveat of this.
Want to maybe give Tom Medkey a call?
I will.
See what he thinks.
Fifth item, appropriate within capital improvements $10,000 for the replacement of a controller and installation at Andover and 30th Street. Comments? What do you go with that? Other items, nothing. Keith, you have any other comments?
Nope. And the other two items on the agenda, I've created a new section called items that are on the table. Doesn't mean you need to act on them. I know the one topic on the executive session, you were awaiting to consider that after the collective bargaining agreements are all finished. So I told you I was going to leave it on the agenda as a reminder.
What about the item 2 here?
Item 2 is, you may recall that section in the administrative code that restricts employees' participation in a political process. And I think that section of our code needs some changes. And one of the angles in particular is that it brought it to light in my eyes was the elections in Newark, wherein city unions participated significantly in support of candidates that are going to vote on their collective bargaining agreements. That has not happened in Heath, and I think if there was clear language in this section to prevent that, that might be a really good thing. I presented that to you, I think, a month ago.
Yeah, I think it was last month.
So,
You got any draft?
Keith and I
Draft
talked
language for
about
that?
this a little bit, and I think first of all, time is on our side on this. I mean, I don't think there's a pressing need to do something next week or next meeting. I think it's something that we want to make sure that we fully vet. And we certainly, will need to get some guidance, I think, from David because anything that would be more restrictive on what we say our city employees can do relative to lawful election participations, either financial or otherwise, could be subject to a challenge in a court of law. So I think it'd be good for us to have make sure that we've analyzed things from that standpoint, and that's where we would need to lean on you. My thought, as Heath and I kind of brainstormed this a little bit, my thought was that if council was interested in further exploring this topic, this might be an opportunity to create a special committee of council to explore this topic. I looked in the charter, and I believe that council has the authority to create committees to, excuse me, that could, be a forum for further discussion and consideration of this topic. So I would throw that idea out to you as council members if you're interested. That might be an appropriate forum for the conversation.
I guess I would think we'd wanna get the opinions from David first to know what legally we really could do as far as changing this section of the code. And so then determine if.
Well, it might be a chicken or the egg kind of thing, because I'm sure David's gonna wanna know what you would consider changing and what you would consider wanting to implement before he would be able to give you legal opinion on whether or not that can be done.
Yeah, there are probably whole books written on what you can and can't do, and if I could have a more defined question, then I could narrow it down to that.
And it's not all about.
I deal with him much more frequently than you do, so that's why he's bent my thinking something.
That it's not all about talking about being more restrictive. Part of it that I think is needs consideration is the part that restricts our employees for participating in the political process where they live. If this was all reversed, Tim couldn't do this. If Tim worked for the city of Heath and lived in Newark, he couldn't run for council there. And honestly, I see no reason why he could not. And so
Can't run for township trustee,
yeah,
even if it's a township that's not in Lincoln County, right?
yeah. So we've got
Even if
employees
it's
that
nonpartisan?
No,
The way our thing written, it says you can't be a
can't-
political officer,
correct.
can't hold a political office.
and be employed in the city.
Yeah.
So I think about some of our staff. I've got staff that lives in Perry County and Muskingum County, and I guess those two that I can think of right offhand.
Nick, where else do we have employees in other? Do we have other employees that live in other counties other than Perry and Muskingum? Do we have anybody in Coshocton?
I don't think we have anyone.
I can't think of anybody that's in Knox.
Knox, Franklin.
Well, no, I was gonna say Amanda, but no, she's right on the edge of looking there.
Yeah.
I think that's probably pretty much covers it that I can think of.
Yeah.
But
Or maybe Fairfield.
yeah, even if somebody
Ralph
lived in
Swick lives in Fairfield.
I
Fallsburg
think
and wanted to be in or Hanover and be participant in their government, I see absolutely no reason why we should be restrictive of that.
Yeah.
I think we need to look at the code and just kind of see if there's a couple glaring ones, and maybe there's some we.
And the reason why I'm thinking of this committee is that obviously, Keith brought it up last month, and I think it's a conversation worth having. I think it's something that if we can find a way to clarify and improve on, and I think it's good to have the conversation. Clearly, it's not an issue dealing with either revenue coming into the city or expenditures going out, so it's not really a finance committee topic, but it isn't a parks committee topic, it's not a street committee it's not even really a community development committee topic under John Groff's committee, which is why, like I said, I was looking in the charter, and I believe the charter would allow council to create a committee.
An ad hoc committee,
Yeah.
just for this purpose.
Yeah, and
Can
it
the
could be for
president
that.
take himself and two other people and call it a committee? Or does the
Absolutely.
committee have to be voted on by the?
I think the power of the president of council can
Oh, I'm going to willpower you
just
guys.
simply do it.
Hard for you to take you seriously in that creature.
You're one day a year.
You're going to wastewater.
Well, I'll tell you what, just to speed things along, I mean, I would like to be on that committee, so I'll take myself, and if there's two other council members that would like to be on it.
Do you know, I don't know if I looked in the charter to see how that action would take place. Do you know?
Offhand, I don't, but I can get that answer.
I mean, we can.
It's going to be a part of
Depending on when
Robert's
you meet, I would
rules,
be interested.
don't you think?
Yeah, probably it would, yeah.
I would do it too.
As long as you're not gonna meet at some middle of the day on a weekday.
No, I think what I'd want to do is make sure everyone had a copy of it, and then we could get together sometime and just kind of go through it and just kind of highlight the glaring things that jump out at you to say, and then make a few recommendation changes. We'll come back to the full group and say, here's what we'd like to recommend changes, and if we get, everyone to agree, or at least, a good majority to agree on it. I don't want to change it just to change it, and I don't want it to be a 4-3 kind of a thing. I like it to be a 7-0, yes, everyone's in favor of doing this kind of a thing, or at least a 6-1, kind of a thing, super majority kind of a situation. If we're going to change it, and there's no sense of changing it if it doesn't have any teeth in it, if we're just spinning our wheels. We don't say, you can't do this, and then find out later that you can't legally say you can't do that, kind of a thing. So we make some changes, run it through David. David look at it, say, yeah, this would be all right to make the change. We make it, go through.
In the existing code, in the existing code today, how it's applied, it's not crystal clear in the code the way that it's applied. I mean, it could be made, even if there were no changes made to the substance of how that is handled, it could be changed to better clarify the way that it's handled today. So that could be changed irregardless of making any changes one way or the other to anything else. But, I think, Keith's, mentioning about, well, they can't hold any elective office anywhere else. I mean, certainly not within you wouldn't want within the city of Heath, but why not someplace else?
And how's it enforced? It's not a crime to violate that statute. You don't go to jail or be charged with a crime. So what's the enforcement mechanism? What if somebody did it anyway? What could we do to stop it?
Probably you would have to go to the type of discipline that we would do for anything else that we discipline a city employee for, and we would be subject to the concepts of progressive discipline on that. So, because there's nothing in the code itself that says if you if you stick a yard sign in your yard, you're fired. There's nothing that says that. So
well, you wouldn't want, like, if you as a mayor, let's say you had an employee that put a big sign, vote against Mayor Johns, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you call them in and say, hey, you're not a campaign, I'm going to give you you know, this disciplinary thing, and then, I mean, that's gonna look bad. That, why are you doing it? Is it because it's Mayor John's, or because it's illegal to put a sign in?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, if it said, I support Mayor John's, and then you don't discipline, you know, well, okay, you shouldn't do that, but it's a nice big sign, it's right on the main street, and I like it, you know. You know what I'm saying?
Spelled the name right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It puts you, it's kind of like, you know, how do you do that? You know, and someone, let's say, you know, for auditor or something, you know, and you know, they want to support the auditor, but yet then, let's say someone puts it against the auditor, and all of a sudden it's like, well, you know, we were supposed to get this or this benefit, now we don't have it, and everyone that supported it, you know, you don't want that perceived little thing. You know, you want to be clear and cut dry.
Tim, I run that risk every time we have political offices and I tell people to take down their signs.
Right, yeah.
Running for mayor.
I mean, certainly, if you go out with something in the right of way and you pull it out, and it's like he pulled every sign out that said this because they were wrong, but everyone else was right on the backside. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be caught in that position. You know, I mean, no matter what it is, it could be, you know, an issue like if we decide to do a fire levy or something like that. It could be the same thing. You know, all the firemen are putting signs out for it, and other people aren't. And let's say the fire department signs are in the right location, and people that are against it's in the wrong location, and John picks them up. All of a sudden, it looks like, oh, he's just enforcing because, you know.
Then on the other side of that, some of the employees might like the fact that they can't put one in because then they won't feel like, okay, if I don't put one in.
Well, that's part of it too. It's just that there's no pressure on that you can't, you know.
Yeah, because if the mayor says, hey, you're allowed now to put signs in my yard, every city employee better have a sign in my yard or else.
Or just says, hey,
that's
you're allowed
pressure.
to put signs and, you know, I don't know.
That's probably what the ordinance was meant to do, is take the pressure off employees to do that kind of thing.
But if an employee,
be careful when we make changes.
But if an employee wanted to run for mayor or run for auditor while they were a current employee, then they really couldn't do that.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? You know.
But what can their wife do?
Well, see, that's the gray area. Then it's like if
you know, a woman or a man, they should be able to put a sign in their yard and still live there just because one person works for the city, the other one doesn't.
I don't know why they can't run for the position of their employee anyways. It's just based on the standing. If you're elected, you can't no longer be an employee.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what I'm saying. Things need to change. We need to tweak
give
it.
up their right as an employee. That they should have that right. Go crazy.
Right.
Yes.
I didn't realize they couldn't put signs in their yard already.
Yeah.
They can. They really can because of the wife circumstance.
They can't, but it looks bad if they do. You know, and again, they're kind of. I don't want to be. You know,
they don't. I mean, Nick, I don't know if any. I can't recall.
Item driver.
At least in the
But you just want that.
So there's a lot of things with it, and it's not something that needs to be changed next week. So we do have some time to take a look. And the other thing too is having it in a committee allows you to also then have a forum where you can announce that there's maybe an open meeting and you can have public input, which is, you know, you always want to afford that as well. So.
Well, the first thing I'd want to do is get a copy and make sure Jeff and Deb both have copies of what we're talking about. And then we can get together one time to just kind of. Now, David, let me ask you this. If the three of us decide to get together to talk about this, do we have to advertise an open meeting so it counts as just the three of us, or do we have to have a.
Yeah, if it's a committee, you should advertise it.
All right.
You know, everything else is regularly scheduled, but this wouldn't be,
So when we're gonna have it, I need to tell Lynn ahead of time, and so it can get, that we're gonna meet, you know.
I think notify the media and put it on this website, and that would be the notification.
Yeah. Find out when's the best time to meet, and whether it'd be better just to wait and meet after a meeting some night, you know, just to get together for a half hour afterwards, and then everyone's here. If other people want to stay, they can. It's open, you know, but pretty much just get the input of us right now. Because you get too many people talking about it, nothing will ever get done. Okay, sounds good.
Maybe after service meeting, it usually, you know, one of the off weeks, the safety meeting or the service meeting.
Yeah.
John's meeting usually runs a little shorter than the safety.
Yeah, that might be good. The service meeting one might be the best time to do that right after that. Maybe that'd be our first one. Just hand out the information to it.
You got anything else?
I have nothing else, sir.
Do we need an update on collective bargaining and executive session? From you?
Yeah, real quick.
Since we have,
Real quick, I mean,
20 minutes solid here, so.
4 minutes. Yeah, real
Okay.
quick.
Before we adjourn out of the finance?
Yeah.
Did anyone else get any information about this Ohio Insurance Services Agency that wants to come tonight? Heath? Mayor?
I was provided a copy of
Yeah.
that
I
from
got the
Lynn.
copy, but maybe they weren't coming. I thought it was
Well,
somebody.
it sounds like they're gonna be here tonight at 7 o'clock,
Well,
but our meeting's not till 7:30, and I don't know what they wanna come to us for.
let me explain.
Keith's got an update for you.
Okay.
I sent an email to them. They never responded to me, but I mentioned that typical protocol, if you want to do a sales pitch, you would maybe do a sales pitch to myself or Debbie Whitefield,
Yeah.
and eventually become an issue for council if we were to engage in getting, a new contract. Council would need to approve that. But I just mentioned to them that their protocol seemed strange to me, and it's a public meeting. You can come talk to them if you want, but I don't think that it's your right pathway.
Well, did you say, Keith, that basically this outfit would want to replace Tom Medke?
Actually, what they
Or
would
be
want-
one of the companies that Tom would contact to consider being an insurance provider?
It's my understanding that this is health insurance, this health insurance consortium, isn't that what
Oh.
it mentions? So it would
Oh.
be to right now we don't really have an agent. We've gone directly to MedBen.
Yeah.
We've kind of acted as our own agent. Of course, we're not therefore not paying a commission to an agent. Medkey's different. He's
He's our, yeah.
He's-
I didn't,
he's
I
a
didn't realize
casualty.
the health, okay.
doesn't that mention health?
Yeah,
health
it's
insurance?
Ohio Public Entity Consortium Healthcare Cooperative.
Yeah. I also mentioned to him that effective January, we just changed after near 20 years,
Yeah.
that, they could maybe consider that when they determine whether to be here at 7 o'clock tonight. So I don't know if they'll show up or not.
Okay.
But I never heard another thing from them.
Did you tell them the meeting's at 7:30 instead of 7?
Well, I assumed that they had communication with Lynn and maybe wanted to be here for caucus. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what they were here, and it doesn't say anything, and then, my thought was, if they come to the regular meeting under visitors, they wanna speak, but I'm only gonna say 5 minutes, I ain't gonna listen to a half-hour
No.
presentation.
I know.
Or anything, if they wanna do a half-hour, that's when they need to talk to
In
Keith.
all honesty, it would not be time well spent by them.
Yeah,
it just would.
They're talking to the wrong people.
Yes.
Not to mention, if
I got this
they're-
Friday in
they're
the
late to
mail.
their own meeting, they're late to their own meeting by 10 seconds right now.
Well,
so-
maybe I headed them off. I don't. That's going to be my assumption.
Well, I think Lynn told me about this, and then I got this in the mail at my house on Friday, but she told me, I think Thursday night or sometime she called me and said something about it, and, so, I don't know what, it's like, I go, I don't know what you're talking about, Lynn, it's like,
Yeah.
and I said, well, if they come, I don't want no insurance presentations, I mean, it's not something we deal with.
You do that in village council meetings all the time, but
That's but I think they have different villages that they do. I had another thing where they had.
On that note, I think it's a good idea.
What?
If people are coming to sales pitch, like that one guy who came in there and they pitched us, I mean, I want to rip my head off after about 10 minutes of that. Just terrible. Remember that guy that sat in here was telling us, oh, God.
That was electric or power
Oh,
or something,
yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah, I let
like
that
30
go way too
minutes of
long.
that, so.
I wasn't here that day.
You didn't.
Yeah, you did. You lucky.
Yeah, you should come off after 5. I'm off at 5.
Are you here for a reason, John? Is there something?
Just because I like the company.
Oh. I thought maybe we had to do something. I thought maybe you were wanting us to do something. Okay.
Nothing else for finance? Nope. So we'll do a motion to go into executive session to discuss collective bargaining.
Say it's a quickie?
Yeah, yeah.
Who went in and who went out? Who's going in? You're first or second?
First.
First, second. Okay. Jeff in or second. Okay. So I did that.